What's up guys, it's your boy Nimbus here, and today we finally have it. We have the full Demon Slayer guide. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and let's get into it. Well, welcome to Demon Slayer guys, welcome to the Demon Slayer guide. So yeah, I guess first I just kind of want to talk about, what makes Demon Slayer such a great class to play, and what the strengths are, and then also we should kind of go over the weaknesses, right? So I guess some of the pros that I'd like to outline about Demon Slayer are, well, first and foremost, it's no secret anymore, but Demon Slayers are objectively the best farmers in the game, right? I have a whole guide on this I put out already, but essentially they have something called TP farming. And so how it works essentially, oh, holy lag, is by me holding one single button, I can just blink around the map like this and pretty much do maximum rates. So I've done a bunch of battle analyses in this map already, and so the maximum is about like 18,000, like 900, 800 if I remember correctly. It's somewhere in that range. And with Demon Slayer, just by holding down one button, you can do 18,300 mobs per hour, right? And so this is called TP farming, and it is something that makes Demon Slayers just the best farmers in the game, because again, I'm literally just holding down my right alt button and I am effectively full clearing the map, pretty much, right? Another thing is that because I'm constantly teleporting around the map, Demon Slayers don't really care about map layout as much as other classes, right? And so what that means also is that you get just higher burning everywhere, right? I'm in Carcion. Carcion has a lot of people. It's a very condensed area because there's so many people that are just like 285 to 290. And it is very rare for me to go a day without having at least a couple hours in a map that has like 40, 50, 60% burning in Carcion, right? And people in Carcion tend to farm a lot because they're already at this point. And something else I forgot to mention in the video, so I'm just going to interject right here, is that Demon Slayers are also one of the only classes in MapleStory that don't really need a vac pet. So a bunch of different DS mains in the Discord have tested it out, and just getting 3 pets with expanded auto move will get you roughly 90% of the rates that someone with a vac pet will get. So if you're okay with just losing 10% of the rates while you TP farm, you don't need a vac pet. You can just pay for auto move on 3 regular pets, even like 3 of like the pets you get from normal Hilla, which are free, or 3 of the Gigatoads. And yeah, you will have 90% of the rates without paying that monthly subscription or paying that large $100 fee to get a vac pet going, right? So this is what really attracted me to Demon Slayer. It is, their farming. It's literally the best farmer in the game, and you spend like 90% of your time in MapleStory just straight up farming, right? So another thing that Demon Slayer does really well is they're really hard, like really good at bossing, or at least their survivability is extremely good, right? So Demon Slayer has technically 5 iframes if you want to break it down into like different like parts of your bursts or your iframes during 6th job, but realistically you probably have 2 iframes before you start sacrificing damage. So our first iframe is called Ravenstorm, and so let me just get into my bossing setup here. Ravenstorm is essentially just a 1.5 second iframe, and during this whole animation you are essentially invulnerable. Let me just go somewhere where there's no people, right? And so because you have this iframe so consistently up, it's just really hard for you to die when you're bossing on Demon Slayer. And so another thing is that Ravenstorm is on a 30-second cooldown, right? That's our first iframe. Our second iframe is a 3-second iframe. 3 seconds, right? And so it's Dark Metamorphosis. So it is an ability that you unlock in 4th job, I believe, right? Yeah, you unlock it in 4th job. And so again, it is quite literally 3 seconds of iframe, right? And so with these 2 iframes, usually you are going to be able to get out of most situations. So you have one up every 30 seconds. And also something I forgot to mention about Ravenstorm is that Ravenstorm heals you each time you use it too. It heals you for 50% of your HP. So not only are you iframed for 1.5 seconds, you're also getting healed for half your health. And this does not work in things like V, Hilla, and Will, but in any boss you can use potions, it'll heal you, right? Dark Metamorphosis, one of the weaknesses of Dark Metamorphosis is the fact that you are constantly auto-buffing Dark Metamorphosis because it gives you 36% damage and it has 100% uptime. You want to constantly be using it whenever it's up or whenever it's down, right? So there are periods in time when you're bossing on Demon Slayer where Dark Metamorphosis is on cooldown because you just used it to buff up for the damage, but more times than not, Dark Metamorphosis is just going to be up. Like if you look at my buff duration here, obviously I'm in a TP farming setup, but usually you will be able to just like have Dark Metamorphosis up for a large portion of your rotation, right? So I guess to kind of just like go through some of the basics for Demon Slayer. Your main ability is always going to be Demon Lash, and Demon Lash isn't actually a skill. What it is instead, if you look at the bottom here on my hotbar, is just your basic attack key. And essentially, every time you job advance on Demon Slayer, your Demon Lash just gets more and more empowered, and then it gets more empowered when you get into 6th job also. And so Demon Lash is your main attack, and for this you're literally just holding down the attack key. I'm holding down R right now, right? The second ability you get, that is your other main damage ability, is Demon Impact, and you get this at 4th job. And so what Demon Impact is pretty much just your off burst, and it literally just looks like this. You're probably gonna look a little different if you're in 5th job, but during 6th job, this is what it looks like. Your main mobbing ability is going to be, sorry, where is it? I don't have it bound right now, I don't think. No, that's Cerberus Chomp. That's another ability we have too, but that one isn't as important to our rotation per se. This is our main mobbing skill if you can't TP farm. It is Infernal Concussion. It does look a little bit different in 5th job, but this is what it's going to be looking like in 6th job. Right, so the main thing for Demon Slayers, for the most part, is if you look at the bottom here, you'll notice I don't have mana. I have something else. This is called Demon Fury, right? And Demon Fury is essentially the resource system that Demon Slayers use. And so it's actually relatively straightforward. How it works is pretty much Demon Lash, when you hit things, generates Demon Fury, and all of your other abilities, for the most part, use some form of Demon Fury as a resource, right? So even like Ravenstorm uses Demon Fury, Dark Metamorphosis uses Demon Fury, even Demon Impact uses Demon Fury, right? And so this is where Cerberus Chomp becomes relevant, because when you're bossing, when you're fighting anything, if you are running out of Demon Fury, you can just pop Cerberus Chomp here, and what it will do is it'll generate Demon Fury for you. And it generates 50 Demon Fury for you when you use it, and it doesn't cost any Demon Fury to use. So this is our second free ability, and essentially you just use it, it hits something, and then you get some Demon Fury back, right? So in regards to all the important skills, there's a couple more that are, they're kind of important, but you don't really use them like ever outside of early leveling. Soul Eater you don't use. Dark Thrust is actually our main dash, so this is something you guys should get familiar with too. And so I guess, you know what, why don't we just like segue into movement. So Demon Slayer has a couple movement abilities here, and I think one of the better bosses to kind of show it off would be probably Lotus. And like you can use this in other bosses too, but so okay, first and foremost, why don't we just go over what Dark Thrust is. Dark Thrust is just a dash. There is some end lag on it when you press it, so as you can see, there's an animation after you use the dash, but this is mainly what you're using to like dash around. So there's a couple things to note about Dark Thrust. First and foremost is if you put Dark Thrust on a macro, I'll just put it here on L because I don't actually use the Dark Thrust macro, but what you can do is you can hold it down and it'll buffer, and also when you are landing on Demon Slayer, you can buffer your dash with Dark Thrust. So the reason I don't like Dark Thrust is, on a macro at least, is because I have a really bad habit of spamming key presses. And so because Dark Thrust starts letting you, oh, this guy's speaking facts right here, buff DS, true. But when you're using Dark Thrust on a macro, if you press it twice, you'll end up dashing twice even if you don't want to dash that second time because you already buffered it in, right? So I don't use Dark Thrust on a macro personally. I've heard that it goes off a little bit faster too if you have it on a macro and you can buffer. Some people like the buffering. I personally don't. So I don't use Dark Thrust on a macro. So yeah, something else that people don't really know about Dark Thrust too is you can actually cancel it by pressing spacebar. So you can like do a full dash, or when you get comfortable with it, you can start canceling to get like little micro dashes with Dark Thrust. There are not a lot of situations when I use this, to be honest with you guys. I just misclicked that. But yeah, when you're using Dark Thrust, you can micro cancel it to get like smaller micro adjustments, for example, in Vihilla. So like if you wanted to get like a little half dash off, you could half dash it instead, but you are still animation locked. So that is something people don't really know about Demon Slayers, is the fact that their Dark Thrust can be canceled with spacebar to get some movement canceling going, right? So another thing about Demon Slayer's movement too is the gliding, obviously, right? I think gliding is one of the most OP mechanics in the game, and also it carries momentum. So when you are a Demon Slayer or a Demon Avenger, you do have the ability to fly. And so as you guys see here, Dark Winds is the move. But if you right click it, essentially what it does is it turns off gliding, and you end up just having like a regular flash jump like other classes. And honestly, if you are planning to main Demon Slayer at all, I would highly, I can't stress this enough, highly recommend you never keep this toggle on. You need to be able to effectively and efficiently use the movement afforded to you as this class, because it is some of the best movement you get access to in the game. So when you are trying to fly on Demon Slayer, essentially you just jump, you hold spacebar, and you can glide. So how do you flash jump then, right? You end up having to double tap the direction you want to flash jump in. So you double tap left, you double tap right, you double tap up. You cannot double tap down. And so that's how Demon Slayers flash jump. And so something really nice, let me just go back to Carson here because there's more space. Something that's really nice about Demon Slayers too is you can glide and then flash jump and then glide again, or you can glide, flash jump, glide, right? Or you can glide into a flash jump. The order doesn't really matter. If you guys have ever played something like maybe Super Smash Bros, you have one flash jump essentially every time you're in the air. And then you can't flash jump in the directions afterwards no matter what you press. So what you end up with is some situations where you, let's say like you want to micro glide here, and then you want to go up and you want to go back to gliding backwards. You have that option, right? And so just because of that, you have a lot of ways to become like mobile in the air as a Demon Slayer. Some like fun tech, I guess, on Demon Slayer 2 is if you start gliding in one direction, the momentum's already set. So if you just flick this way and keep the momentum, you can do a reverse glide. This is pretty useless, to be honest. It's just for the drip, just to, you know, to show these other video gamers that you really do have it on you, right? Something else about gliding is that it does work into blink. So for example, if you want a really long air stall and you want to stay the same direction, you just have to keep tethering between left and right, and then as you approach the ground, you can then switch into blink to keep your air stall going even longer, right? So that's another thing you can do with Demon Slayers. You can hold your glide until you run out, then you can go into a blink, and then you can continue flying afterwards. So the movement is pretty deep on this class because you're afforded so many options. And another thing too is that momentum carries through when you're gliding. So if I jump here and then I flash jump and then I glide, you'll notice I actually fly faster than if I just jump and glide in a direction, right? It's like a different speed. You can also like speed cancel too by flash jumping in the other direction. So there's a lot of options you're afforded when you're flying on Demon Slayer or when you're gliding, and getting used to this just opens up a lot of movement options when you're bossing just in general on this class. So that is something that that's why I really recommend you guys do not like use the like flash jump lock thing when you right click Dark Winds. So the final movement ability Demon Slayer has is something called Chaos Lock, and it's the ability we also use for TP farming, and it's also in second job. And essentially what this is it teleports you to a random target, to an enemy that's closest to you, right? And so we use it for TP farming, yes, but we also can use it while we're bossing. And so the reason I think Lotus is a really good example here is because she doesn't move, so I can kind of demonstrate things more intentionally to you guys, right? So when you are moving on Lotus, or when you're using Chaos Lock when bossing, you have to understand a couple things. First of all, it'll always teleport you to the boss unless they have ads. If there's ads, it's kind of random. So if I am here on the boss, I can teleport to the other side on some JoJo shit, right? And this is like what, like a 0.7 second cooldown. So like I can effectively keep changing sides on this boss no matter what, right? And I can just keep spamming it until I run out of Demon Fury, essentially, right? And so something that people don't know about this class is the side of the boss you appear on when you're Chaos Locking is strictly determined by which way you are facing, and then it correlates to the boss, essentially. So if I'm facing this way, I will always appear on the left side of the boss. So you'll always appear facing the boss, essentially, on the side that makes you face it. That's the best way I can explain it. If I'm facing towards the right, I'll appear on the left side of the boss because I'm facing right, and I'm going to appear facing the boss, right? If I'm facing left, I will always appear on the right side of the boss because I'm facing the boss. So no matter where you are, you can manipulate it. So if you guys see, like, if I'm walking this way and I want to appear on the left side, I will just keep facing right. If I'm walking this way on the boss and I want to appear on the right side, I'll keep facing it. If I want a short blink and I want to appear on this side, oh, that was the wrong side, oops, then I'll just face this way and I'll appear on the right side, right? So essentially, like, whichever side you're facing, the best way, or like another way to interpret it is you will always appear on the opposite side that you're facing. So if you're facing left, you'll appear on the right side of the boss. If you're facing right, you'll appear on the left side of the boss. And you can manipulate this to always get around different things. Another example of this is going to be Will Phase 1. You can use it to get around his mirror attack. You can use it in Vihila to dodge strings. You can use it on Darknell. It's very, very, very pronounced in Black Mage. You can use it to get around a lot of the Black Mage's attacks. You can use it on pretty much any boss, as long as they don't have too many ads, to manipulate where you're facing on the boss when you are trying to fight them. Lucid, you can use it too. Like, there's just a lot of applications for this, and you just kind of have to kind of get used to it. So I would highly recommend just thinking of places you can use Chaos Lock. Like, for example, on Will here, if I want to get on him, I can do it like that, right? If he does glasses, I can teleport to the left of him to get through it, right? And so it just gives you a lot more movement options on this thing, right? And so since we're in Will, the next thing I want to start talking about is the iframes, because there's actually a lot of tech you can do with the iframes that people don't really know about when they're getting into this class. So because the iframes on both Ravenstorm and Dark Metamorphosis are so long, you can actually use Chaos Lock or any of your other dashes to dash through things while you're still iframed. Like I just did there, I use Ravenstorm and then I dash through Will's attack. And so if there are any hazards or like walls or just things you're trying to get through, you can dash through a lot of things because the iframe is actually longer than the animation, so your movement abilities open up. So let's see if we can get Will to do glasses again here. The same thing can happen with Dark Metamorphosis. You can pop Dark Metamorphosis and then you can dash through his glasses attack, and you won't take any damage until your iframe is done. So here, I'm going to pop Dark Metamorphosis and I'm going to dash through it. So that's something that you can also do, and it works with both of your iframes. The only difference is how many dashes you can do and how long you're iframed. Like for Dark Metamorphosis, you can probably get 2 to 3 dashes off before you start taking damage. But for Ravenstorm, you could probably only get 1. 2 would really be stretching it. So yeah, that is something else to note about your iframes. Other than that, they're just standard iframes. Another thing I'd highly recommend when you are bossing on Demon Slayer is to always use Ravenstorm before you use Dark Metamorphosis, just because you can cycle through a lot more Ravenstorms than you can do on Dark Metamorphosis. Obviously, there is nuance to that. For example, if you know that you're about to need a 3-second iframe, obviously you're going to use Metamorphosis over Ravenstorm. And obviously, if you have Ravenstorm on cooldown, then you'd use Dark Metamorphosis. But in my opinion, in most cases, you are going to want to be using Ravenstorm before you need to use Dark Metamorphosis. Dark Metamorphosis, in my opinion, is more of that emergency panic button. And then so the next thing I think we should start talking about on Demon Slayer is just like its actual bossing. So Demon Slayer has two different main attacks that you want to use. I was going to say like two different like rotations, but they're not really rotations because they're both one button attacks, right? So essentially, when you're bursting, Demon Lash becomes your main ability. And the reason Demon Lash becomes your main attacking ability is because of your main burst skill, which is Demon Awakening. So Demon Slayer's burst lasts for 65 seconds, and Demon Slayer's burst cooldown is 120 seconds. So half of the time when you're fighting bosses on Demon Slayer, you're on burst, right? And half of the time you're off burst. So Demon Awakening essentially turns Demon Lash into like a Giga Juicer damage ability. And so when Demon Awakening is happening and when you're on burst, for that whole duration of Demon Awakening, for that whole minute, you're going to be using Demon Lash as your main damage ability, right? When it comes to off burst, you're going to be using Demon Impact, because Demon Impact is your main off burst ability, right? Another thing that recently got added with M3, M4 is Cerberus Chomp got empowered. And now Cerberus Chomp actually does a lot of damage. And so what that means for us now as Demon Slayers is we want to be using the empowered Cerberus Chomp off cooldown. So I keep it in my buff favorites here because the cooldown isn't as clear in your hotbar. But it's about, I think it's like a, what, 15 second cooldown, roughly 12 seconds? Let me see. I'm just gonna press it again. But yeah, it's like 15-second cooldown, right? And so essentially when you're off burst, what you want to be doing is just using Demon Impact off burst, and usually you're not going to run out of Demon Fury for the most part. And if you are, you're doing something wrong, because you're going to be using Cerberus Chomp to generate more Demon Fury for you while you're using Demon Lash and while you're using your other abilities. But I've noticed when I boss on Demon Slayer personally, it's very, very hard for you to run out of Demon Fury. It's extremely difficult, especially with the new changes to 6th job. Maybe in 5th job you might run into this problem a little bit more, but during 6th job, not at all, right? So another thing that you need to be extremely cognizant of on Demon Slayer when you are bossing just in general, and I guess we're just going to use Will as our practice dummy again, is the fact that Demon Slayer actually has a very, very important debuff, which is, if I remember correctly, it's like 10 to 15 FD if you're missing this debuff. Also, Demon Slayers can, this debuff is super OP because it increases the drop rate of marked things, so you can mark loot boxes or mark bosses before you kill them, by an additional 20%. So every time Demon Slayers break any box, they're essentially afforded a 20% drop rate bonus on top of everything else. But so if you look here on top of Will, you'll see that little sword thing, right? That is the debuff that we're using. So with 6th job, it essentially gives us the ability to, whenever we do that like empowered Demon Impact, the one that slams the ground, it essentially marks them with that debuff for us. So when we're off bursting, we don't have to worry about this debuff at all. But when we're on bursting, we have to mark it manually. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I just kind of like get into the buff sequence here, just so you guys can, I guess, like visualize it more easily. But essentially, actually, let's go to Mulong just because I feel like the dojo would be easier than Will. Okay, guys, so essentially, like, this is the debuff when we are on burst. This little red one right here, that's the debuff you want to keep an eye out for. It looks a little bit different when you are 5th job, but this is essentially what it looks like, right? And so again, our burst rotation is as follows. So I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate it to you guys, and then I will just kind of explain what everything is. So essentially, you just pop buff sequence, pop Demon Cry, which is our debuff, place all your summons, and then you pop Ori. And now while it's binded, you're just going to use Demon Lash until the bind is over. So usually you get a couple cycles of Demon Lash for around like 2.5. Then you rebind, hold down Demon's Bane, which is our main burst ability. This is also an iframe, by the way. And then after Demon's Bane's done, you drop the axe, and then you just pretty much Demon Lash until your burst is over. So for the rest of your, like, the extra like 40 seconds of your Demon Awakening being on, you're essentially just using Demon Lash only. And then after that, you'll then go back into using Demon Impact, and then you'll just press Cerberus Chomp off cooldown while it's empowered. But on your burst, you're literally just a 1-button class. Off your burst, you're like a 2-button class, right? And so the burst setup is extremely easy. And again, you are a 2-minute class too, right? So just to kind of break down what we're pressing again in more detail, I'm just gonna go ahead and just like show these abilities off. So first of all, we do have our skill sequence, and our skill sequence is pretty much just everything. So Boundless Rage is a very important ability for our burst, and the reason is because Boundless Rage gives you infinite Demon Fury for 36 seconds, right? And so this allows you to pop everything else without running into Demon Fury issues. The next thing you pop is Demonic Fortitude, and then I just roll through everything. It doesn't really matter. Some people do have bugs in skill sequence, but I think they fixed most of it, so you don't really have to worry about the order. You can copy mine. I think the most important things though is that you pop Boundless Rage first, and then you pop Demon's Awakening, and then into AB last. And the reason is AB is our most important buff because it gives us the most damage, and the more uptime we get on it, the better. And Demon Awakening is our second most important. So it's essentially Boundless Rage, then honestly just like whatever the fuck, and then just Demon's Awakening and Terms and Conditions, right? And then, so again, most of our abilities are, like, this class is really, really simple. Like, in regards to our auto buffs, I guess we should just cover that shortly too. There aren't too many you actually need for bossing. To be honest, this one is completely negligible. I just have the extra space. You don't need Holy Symbol when you're bossing. Decent Sharp Eyes gets replaced by Sayrams, so you don't need this either. So all you really want is Dark Metamorphosis, Leech Aura, because it's built-in lifesteal, so you do have built-in lifesteal as a Demon Slayer, and decent combat orders. All the other buffs are, yeah, there's nothing else. You do not want to put Demonic Fortitude on auto buff, even though you can, because it only has 50% uptime, so it's up for a minute, and its cooldown is 2 minutes, so you only want that to be up for your burst. Everything else is just like passives pretty much, so you don't really have to worry about anything else. All the other abilities too, they're pretty negligible. The only thing else that you really need to worry about is your bind. So Demon Slayers do have a class bind. It is Binding Darkness. The problem with Binding Darkness is it's just like the delay is too long compared to the one that you get from 5th Job. It's better, right? And so I would recommend, what I do is I use Urda Nova as my main bind, and I have Binding Darkness as like my emergency bind if I fuck something up, right? Another thing is that, you know, we still have Hero's Echo as Demon Slayers, and we also have Demon's Will, and then we have Will of Urda. So these are both of your will skills. What they do is they just like they give you like essentially like not an iframe, but like a debuff iframe where you can't really get debuffed. And then on shift here, this is Demon's Bane. This is our main burst ability. So Demon's Bane is just a key down ability. You hold it, but something that's really nice about Demon's Bane is the whole time until the animation's done and you land back here, you're iframed. So our key down is iframe. So that's iframe number 3, right? Iframe number 4 is going to be Nightmare. When you pop your Ori, just like every other class, we're iframed. But if you guys were paying attention during my previous burst, when we do our axe drop, which is like the back end of our burst essentially, we're iframed in that too. So that's 5. So again, Ravenstorm is 1, Dark Metamorphosis is 2, Demon's Bane, which is like, it's like a 5 to like 7 second iframe, is 3. Popping your Ori is another iframe, that's 4, and then when you drop your axe, it's 5. So something really important also about the Ori is when you are using your Ori, you do not want to drop the axe immediately. How it kind of works is you build up like excess Demon Fury, pretty much, and then once it's at maximum, your screen starts glowing purple, and that's when the axe is fully charged, and then that's when you drop the axe. Okay? So that kind of just covers the main rotation. Again, it's extremely simple. Like, our burst rotation is literally just slide your fingers across the keyboard. So again, buff sequence, pop your debuff, pop all your summons, pop your Ori, and then you just use Demon Lash until your Ori bind is over. That's the best way to mark it. You just hold down Demon Lash until your Ori bind is about to run out, which is around 90 seconds on the clock. When the Ori bind is about to run out, you then pop Urda Nova, which is your bind, or you can use Binding Darkness. I prefer Urda Nova, but if you guys want to save on nodes, you can use Binding Darkness. That's fine. It works. They both work. I just think one works a little better. And then after you pop your regular bind, you then hold down Demon's Bane, and then after Demon's Bane is done and the animation's over, you then should have your axe pretty much charged. If not, you just use Demon Lash a little more, your screen starts glowing purple, and then you drop the hammer on them. So I'm just going to again demonstrate the burst in a real boss. So I'm just going to go over to yeah, let's just go over to Black Mage. Why don't we, right? Actually, we can move from Mudong. I'll just do it on Hard Lotus just so you guys can like see the iframes, because I think the iframes get demonstrated a lot more in X-Lot. So let's just go to Lotus here. Where's Lotus? Sorry, I'm having a brain fart. Oh, there she is. Okay. So I'll just go over to X-Lot because I one-shot the phase. Like phase 1 in Hard Lotus. So let's go to X-Lot here. It's all chill. And then so again, I'm just going to pop my buff sequence, Demon Cry, pop all my summons, drop the Ori. Now that the Ori's out, I'm just going to Demon Lash and just Demon Lash until there's 90 seconds on the bind clock. I then rebind, and then I hold down Demon's Bane. You just hold it down until you land. You go back to using Demon Lash, your screen glows purple, and then you just drop the axe. And then after that, all you do is you just hold shit down. You just hold down Demon Lash until your Demon Awakening is over, which is in about 30 seconds for me, right? And so again, that is the Demon Slayer burst. It's super simple. And then off, if you don't have your Ori, you literally just, what I do is I pop all my buffs. Same thing, you know, I pop my debuff. I then just hold down Demon's Bane. So you just do the second part of the burst essentially. You skip the part where you pop Ori and then Demon Lash until the second bind. You just go straight into the second bind portion. So that's Demon Slayer's burst. And again, for our off burst, it's really straightforward. You just hold down Demon Impact, pop Cerberus Chomp off cooldown, and then you just Demon Impact, and you just hold down Demon Impact until Cerberus Chomp is empowered again. And so yeah, our off burst and our burst are both really easy compared to other classes, especially once you get the hang of it. We're essentially just a one button class. It's just the one button that we're holding down changes, but I guess now you kind of have to cycle in Cerberus Chomp. You don't lose a crazy amount of FD by not using Cerberus Chomp off burst, but you do lose some FD. I don't know the number right now. So yeah, that is all the skills for Demon Slayer. Another thing that I think is actually, I kind of forgot about, to be honest, is a really important toggle for us. It's called Blue Blood. We get this toggle, I think we get it from our hyper skills. And so what Blue Blood is it essentially just doubles your damage. That's it. It's a toggle that just doubles your damage. There's nothing really special about it. Oh, also it decreases the amount of Demon Fury you use on all your abilities. So you just want this on all the time. There's no drawbacks to it. You just want to make sure you have it on. And when you're like learning Demon Slayer, you're gonna like start hitting things and wonder why the fuck you're missing so much damage. Chances are you probably just forgot to turn on Blue Blood. And yeah. In regards to our hyper passives, they're pretty straightforward. You just want Demon Lash Reinforce. So this just increases the damage of Demon Lash by 10%. This is useless because we don't use Demon Lash for mobbing. This is useless because we don't really have Demon Fury issues. The next one is going to be Dark Metamorphosis Reinforce. So this just increases the damage that Dark Metamorphosis gives us by 20%. This one is very useless. This is kind of just like Magic Crash, but for Dark Metamorphosis. There's not really a situation where you want this over the other options. This is Reduced Fury. This is like reduces the Fury that Dark Metamorphosis costs. Again, it's like super useless because we never really run out of Demon Fury. Demon Impact, you want to just get everything. It's all just damage. It's like plus 20% damage, plus 1 extra line. And then it lowers the amount of cost for Demon Fury. This one you do want, because like Demon Fury does cost, you know, some Demon Fury, and you're using it for a minute straight. You could potentially get rid of this now that we're using Cerberus Chomp and just put it into something else, but it's just like the other options are all pretty garbage, so you might as well just keep it in here just because for the nice quality of life. Yeah, so these are all the Demon Slayer skills. What are some other things you guys need to know about Demon Slayer? Oh yes, Demon Slayer's ring setup. So right now, Demon Slayer is a Kant class because our burst lasts a minute. So Kant is technically bis for Demon Slayer at the moment. But with the 2-minute changes, we become a Roar class. So you want Roar pretty much for the most part, like everything, because what they're changing essentially is Demon Lash gets condensed into pretty much your Roar window. It gets turned into just like a couple attacks, and that's like the main change. It's no longer going to be like a 1-minute long burst. It's just going to be a couple seconds. So you're going to be using Demon Impact a lot longer, so you should get a lot more comfortable with just using Demon Impact and using your chomps in like off cooldown when they're empowered. Another thing too to note is that Cerberus, like I guess like yeah, we can kind of maybe like talk about the weaknesses of Demon Slayer. I guess the main weakness in my opinion for Demon Slayer is like their damage isn't insanely good, but because Demon Slayers are the best farmers in the game, a lot of people feel just like more inclined to farm, myself included, and you can do a lot more things while you're farming because you don't even have to like look at the screen, right? And so you kind of just end up offsetting damage with just mesos, because you can kind of just like, you generate so much mesos that it does get offset. But like I think like the main weakness of Demon Slayer in my opinion is just when you're getting used to everything, the class can feel clunky, right? Demon Impact has a very long frame, like, or animation, so you do get animation locked after you throw it out. So if you're used to like more snappy, like quicker animations, you do need to get used to the fact that Demon Impact is a longer animation. It's not as long as something like a Marksman, for example, but it is definitely like longer than like other classes that have just shorter animations in general, right? In my opinion, that's the main weakness. I guess like you can perceive having to relearn how to flash jump as another weakness. Getting used to double tapping the direction you want to flash jump in, but I wouldn't really consider it that much of a weakness because the trade-off is superior mobility. There's only like a couple classes in the game that have better movement than Demon Slayer, in my opinion, right? So yeah, I guess what else do I need to talk about? Oh, inner ability. Yes, inner ability and trinodes. I need to remember that. I need to talk about that too. So for your inner ability on Demon Slayer, it's pretty straightforward, honestly. Demon Slayers hit the attack speed cap with decent speed infusion and the Monster Park green potion. So all you need to do is just go boss damage, and then you also want damage when attacking just like abnormal status. And then the last one, you can either get buff duration or cooldown skip. Cooldown skip if you're learning the class, just because your iframes can cooldown skip. But that's pretty much all that cooldown skips, it's just your iframes. Buff duration is objectively just more damage though, because it increases AB. So you do want buff duration ideally, but if you're still learning the class and you're like learning bosses and stuff, cooldown skip is perfectly fine. In regards to main stats, Demon Slayers are a strength class and we are a warrior class. So when you're deciding what weapon you want, you can either go for the hammer, like the one-handed hammer, or the one-handed mace. There is quite literally no difference between the hammer and the mace. It is specifically just cosmetic. So that's completely preference. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. I do think axes look cooler, but you know, to each their own. I'm not really gonna flame you for liking hammers. What else is there? Oh yes, Demon Slayers do have a different best in slot secondary than most other classes besides Demon Avenger, and so Pino is our second best shield, and I am still in jail right now waiting for it to drop, and it is something called RFS, or Rune Force Shield, and it drops from normal and hard Damien, but obviously hard Damien has a higher drop rate. And so this is the shield right here, my sweet precious. I wish you would drop for me one day. But essentially this kind of changes how the class plays a little bit, actually considerably, to be honest. And so the reason it changes how the class plays is because if you read the fine print here on this shield, you can see that it just straight up increases your damage by 10%, which is amazing. 10% damage is great, but the trade-off is you take 25% bonus damage from everything, literally everything, right? So when you're bossing things that would do, I think 80% and above, become one-shots. My math is a little off on that, I'm pretty sure. But like, yeah, so some things that'll just like end up like chunking you end up becoming one-shots. So Demon Slayers do become kind of fragile when they get this best in slot shield. And another downside is you're kind of just in jail waiting for this to drop. It feels like as rare as a pitch at this point. But yeah, I'm just waiting for this bad boy to drop for me. Another thing too is that you do still want to use the Pino Shield for farming, and the reason you use the Pino Shield for farming is because it gives you more Demon Fury than the regular shield, and more than RFS also. So you do want to keep you essentially have two secondaries. You have one for mobbing and you have one for bossing. Other than that, oh yes, the tri-nodes for 5th job, yes. Okay, so these are the tri-nodes for 5th job here. We have essentially two perfect tri-nodes, one for, I guess they're both for bossing, but one also carries some mobbing tri-nodes in it too. But essentially the 6 skills you want boosted are Demon Lash, Demon Impact, Cerberus Chomp, Demon Cry, Dark Metamorphosis, and Infernal Concussion. And so that's it pretty much. There's nothing else too crazy for this class. It's honestly a pretty simple class. I just wanted to kind of just go over all of the different important things for the class. In regards to our hat, we are not a cooldown class at all. We don't really need cooldown reduction for anything. And then yeah, other than that, we work pretty much just like every other class. We just want stat on everything. We want attack on our weapon, secondary, and emblem. We are a 9-0 class, which means like you do want just straight up attack on everything. And then again, I already covered what we do with our pets. Yeah, there's not really like any crazy tech for this class, to be honest. It's pretty simple, but I just kind of wanted to put out like a Demon Slayer guide, have it all organized in one spot, and just help like the new Demon Slayers get into it. If you guys again were looking for a guide on TP farming, I already have one of those out. But yeah, there are a bunch of just like other skills on Demon Slayer, but you don't really need to like think about them. They either like go off on their own, like for example Demonic Plume, like it just detonates as you like go about your day, so you don't really have to press an extra button for that. And same thing with Janice, like it just does its own thing. Yeah, the rotations are extremely simple in this class, in my opinion. The damage is, I would say, above average. Even after the 2-minute changes, we actually probably don't really lose any damage unless you're keeping like crazy uptime up on the boss. Then it's maybe like potentially 4 or less FD. We're not really sure until we get it on GMS. And then again, if you guys just wanted to like see my bossing keybinds here, maybe copy my homework. These are my keybinds right now. I think it's again pretty simple. A lot of the stuff here is just like extra, like for example blink. You don't really need these. Wills are 2 just like skills that are free. You can put Demon's Bane somewhere else. I like it on shift. These 2 you don't really need to press, like it's a little bit of damage, but they're not that important, so these are open too. This one right here is just for when I'm using roar, so I'm gonna have to get used to this, but that is something else. And then this doesn't really need to be a button either. I just keep it here for like niche situations when I want to like hit the boss above me from like a platform below and it's not safe to get up there. I will use Infernal Concussion if I need to, but you don't really need to do this. This is just like more min-max stuff. For the most part, you can probably just get away with, honestly, realistically, you can probably just get away with like these 12 keys. maybe like 13, 14 if you wanted to move in like Ori and Blink. There's probably like a 14 keys max, but for the most part you're just using like not that many keys, to be honest. And if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're currently gunning for 2,000 subs on YouTube right now, and you guys have been killing it. We're almost there. Also, I stream on Twitch from Sunday to Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So come catch me on Twitch or catch me on one of my YouTube streams. And we're also doing a 10k NX giveaway in our Discord, and I'll go ahead and link that in the description. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you later. Bye-bye.